Ready. El
All right.
Presidente.
We will call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag in the back of
Behind you.
the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Martin. Here. Mr. Hutchinson. No, not here. Mr. Bryant.
Here.
Mrs. O'Grady. Here.
Yeah. Okay, we have the meeting virtual, as everybody can see, and we also have people here physically, which is nice. Why don't we
Hi,
start
everybody.
with introductions over here on my left, and we'll work our way across the room.
Rochelle Peters, Assistant Principal at Stanton. Lynn Smolin, Special Education Coordinator.
Matt Peters, Principal at Lotus School.
Natalie Edston, Assistant Principal at Lotus.
Maureen DeVos, second grade teacher.
Dylan Tucson, solar energy expert.
Mary Taylor, Business Manager.
Christy Hall, I'm the Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent.
Ben Simmons, parent. Matt Lewis, parent.
Ireland.
Jill Lewis, parent.
Christine Schleck, parent.
Charles, student.
Hi, Bailey, fifth grade student.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome,
for being
everybody.
here.
Welcome.
I want to let everybody know that Jeff Sufsick is not here because he's representing the district at an Enchanted Backpack event. He was asked to attend to talk about the projects that we've done, and specifically Enchanted Backpack's contribution for the Stanton Playground. So he's there representing District 114 tonight.
Okay. And I see there's a new agenda at our,
There is a new agenda, so a couple of revisions tonight. The new agenda reflects updated budget dates. In the original version, the calendar dates were incorrect, so those are corrected. You also will find at your seats updated pages 2 and 3 of the budget document itself. We know that budget hearing is being conducted tonight, so thanks for catching that. This is the updated. We don't want to rerun the whole set, but these are the most current pages to add to it. I'm also going to ask the board that we move the personnel report into closed session this evening, and then closed session does indicate confidential personnel issues and my evaluation, and I would like to add confidential student issues to closed session this evening. Those would be the revisions.
okay. Be looking for a motion for approval of the revised agenda.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roger, second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the August 16th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. Did anybody have any changes to those minutes? If not, I'd be looking for a motion for the approval of them.
Make a motion.
Motion by Andy,
I'll second.
second by Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
And any abstentions? No.
No.
Okay, motion passes. Moving along to item number 4, correspondence.
Right, so the board was given a heads up that Nanette Keesgan would be writing a letter of resignation from the Board of Education. So her resignation is in here for your consideration. It would also be something that I believe the board should approve the acceptance of, because then that allows us to move forward in terms of filling that seat. And then also, because Nanette was sitting in the secretary's chair, we also need to identify a new secretary for the Board of Education that would last at least until the April elections. So I believe that would be up for a motion and approval if considered.
Well, if we have the option.
I don't believe you. I mean, you can ask her. I've
We have
tried.
the option. She's still on the board. Not
I've
so
tried.
She's absent.
Yeah, that's all.
Like really absent.
Okay, I'd be looking for that approval for Nanette.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Roger, was that Andy, second?
Yes.
Okay, please pull the board.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Yes?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, thank you. And then do we have any other correspondence?
You do, and I would just call to the board's attention Exhibit C behind Nanette's correspondence that details the process and protocol for filling board vacancies by appointment, which is what we would be doing. So we're not doing anything with this. This is just for the board's information since that resignation was approved. I do have one piece of correspondence that as temporary secretary,
Sure.
I'll read. I want to thank you and the District 114 family for the donation to Save a Pet in my dad's name. Amongst many things he taught me was to love and respect helping animals was one of them. When my dad retired before he got sick, one of his favorite daily pastimes was to come over and take my dog on a walk at the McHenry Dam while I worked during the day. He would be honored by the donation. Thank you for all the kindness everyone has shown my family during this difficult time. It is appreciated and will not be forgotten. From our amazing Natalie Edston. With that,
Any audience comments?
Yep.
Audience? Comments? No, not currently, okay.
if anyone attending virtually has a comment to make, if you would just either raise a hand or pop your comment in the chat, that would be great. All righty then.
All right, not seeing any, we will move forward.
I think that we should just skip recognition. You guys are just here for the meeting, right?
Let's
Riveting.
move recognition to the end of the meeting.
Fair enough.
I'm waiting here
Fair
now an
enough.
hour and a half.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have anything else to be doing, right? All right. My favorite thing in the whole world is student recognition, and these two have been waiting since the spring for this. Mr. Bailey showed up last month. He was so excited to recognize the kids. Sorry, that was our error. He showed a lot of grace in it. So I'm going to invite the amazing Rochelle Peters to tell us a little bit about our students who are being recognized, and maybe their coach first.
I am so excited to have you here, so thank you, and I'm glad everyone gets to be a part of this. So we are part of the IESA for cross-country wrestling and track. So this past spring, we were part of Class 3A for the track and field sectional, which is the sectional that has more participants. It's actually for some of the larger schools. The 4A is the largest, so it's not quite 4A, but 3A. So nonetheless, it's very competitive. So our athletes are going up against, athletes that are extremely talented as well. So at this time, I would like to introduce Coach Bailey to tell us more about our amazing students. So Coach Bailey.
Woo! And if anybody gets out of line, he's got his whistle on, proving he's a coach all the time.
Good evening, everyone. It's with great happiness I get this opportunity on behalf of the 2021 Stanton track and field coaches and faculty to introduce and recognize your outstanding achievements last season. And that's Ireland Lewis and Charles Schlitt in their respective sports of 7th grade girls long jump, 7th grade boys high jump. Both athletes, we started after a long layoff. We didn't have track for an entire season and a half. They came in, they just worked and worked and worked, got better and better and better. Coming to early practice, staying late. We'd have to, they'd be there last month helping us clean up. And through this determination, hard work, and perseverance, they both achieved a berth into the state finals in East Peoria, Illinois, where we went down. Ireland's group got to go first, very first event of the day. So Ireland got to compete, and then Charles, the boys, 7th grade boys high jump, didn't finish until after everyone was already out of the facility.
Oh my gosh. You got to really experience it then, like really.
It was an amazing experience, and it was capped by these two. And Charles was able to finish 6th in the state, which was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, help me put your hands together
Absolutely.
and recognize.
Well, nobody leaves recognition without a little bling, okay? So, and the offer of a cupcake. So I'll go ladies first. No offense. Congratulations.
Those are two of my favorite events. Could we have some more details on their accomplishments, like distance and height?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How'd you finish? Will you tell?
How far?
How far?
13-1.
What was your PR?
I think at like the sectional.
I was gonna say, yeah. These tables are on wheels. Tables are on wheels. Let's clear out some room here. And we'll have our parents lay down on the ground. We'll see if she can jump over them.
Awesome.
Good job.
And what was yours?
5'3".
Seriously? Yeah.
Nice.
Good job. I think Isaac's up to 6 feet. Senior.
Congratulations.
For-
Thank you everyone for
You did.
coming. And nobody leaves recognition like we said about flinging a cupcake. So we'll take a quick break. If you want to do pictures, everybody enjoy a cupcake. There's bottles of water as well. Thank you, Brian, for being here. We'll take a quick PO just to
Ketchup, too.
celebrate our amazing athletes, their families, and everybody that's here.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Or. Yeah.
I just want to get everything else.
All right, before everybody takes off, we have one more recognition. That's a really big one. And I messed up royally because I have it written right here and didn't do it. So anybody that can stick around for just a second? Matt,
I don't know, I have a 25-minute presentation.
how much do you want to kill me right now? I'm so sorry. Can we do one more recognition? Okay, have more cupcakes if you want. It'll just take a second, but I need to do it. It's really important and I totally forgot. So
I'll be quick. A couple minutes.
I'm 50 now. I can forget stuff.
What's the recognition?
Matt's gonna tell
Oh,
you.
Matt's gonna just do it,
Give me
okay.
1 second here.
And Natalie.
I'm just holding the flag. He said I didn't have to say anything.
So we are very proud and excited to announce that Lotus School got recognized as a model PLC school. That was part of our strategic plan that we had a few years ago for applying. We didn't know what the result would be, but turns out we got the recognition. We are one of about 200 schools across the US and Canada, even included in this mix. And if you want to narrow it down even more, we are one of 27 schools in the state of Illinois to get this recognition.
All right.
It's huge. If you go to allthingsplc.info, you'll get to see our story. The application was quite long, but it was our opportunity to tell us where we started the whole professional learning community. It actually went as far back as 8 years ago. And really for the application, you got to prove at least 3 years of commitment. It's been 8 years here, and it all started with forming collaborative teams, and even I know Roger and Matt on the board 8 years ago was committed to our early release Wednesdays. That was a big part of it, so thank you. That gives us time to go ahead and meet as teams, do our professional developments during those times. But as the journey went on, it wasn't just a Wednesday thing, so we continue to grow, and it's an everyday part of our lives, our structures that we have here. You hear about our stories when we talk about our tiered systems that we have in place, and we just continue to get better every year. Doesn't mean that the award stays. We have to be committed and continue to succeed. So we're very proud of this honor and wanted to share it with everybody. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I didn't want everybody to miss that part. It's a big deal.
Another break for cupcakes?
More cupcakes. Thank you again for sticking around.
Thanks,
And thank you for
everybody.
being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep up the good work, you two.
Yeah.
Take a walk. Charles, you can take another cupcake.
Take a box, sweetie. For real. We did it! Yay! I'm gonna check in on you tomorrow.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And I'm sorry I oopsed that one.
So we are at item number 8, appointment for the vacancy of the board secretary. And anybody like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Hey, Roger, make a motion to
Oh,
appoint,
I gotta select somebody?
yeah, to appoint,
To appoint Jen
yeah.
Second.
as secretary.
Okay, we got a motion by Roger, second by Andy. And now, please poll the board.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Since Jen voted yes, I will vote yes also. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
I like my coffee black.
Okay, item number 9.
Moving on.
We need to have a public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 budget, final budget.
Yes, yes.
Mary, anything you'd care to share
Yes.
while we, so it is
7:23.
7:23, starting the public hearing.
So this is our final budget for 2023. We did the tentative budget last month. There are a couple of changes to it. As Heather alluded to, we have added a fund balance on that one page, the budget summary. And then also, since the tentative, I added in on behalf payments for revenues and expenditures. And what that is ISB wants us to add in what the state would pay on our behalf for TRS. It comes in as revenue, comes in as an expenditure, but it's a wash. There's no transactions, but it has to be included into our budget. So that was added in. Another good thing is we have some additional revenues. Usually the state runs a little bit late with our payments, so when I budgeted the transportation payments, I budgeted usually 3 because they've been running behind, sometimes 6 months. Well, now they've caught up. So I added in another $120,000 for our transportation payments that you'll see in there. And as well as tweaked the levy a little bit. We did get, between last month and this month, we got our estimated assessors numbers. It looks like the assessments are going up about 10.8% in this area. Not meaning taxes are going up that high, but just the assessments because of the market. And we did have about $579,000 in new construction. So the more new construction you have, that's not capped that first year. So I did tweak the revenues a little bit. And as far as expenditures, those went up about $160,000 or so, and that was mostly services, some tuition for special ed. Actually, it was pretty much all special ed. And then I also added in another $20,000 for legal fees, because if you remember, we had some lag between last fiscal year and this year with some legal fees, because they tend to bill us a little bit late. So when it comes down to everything, the difference between the tentative budget and the general budget is an increase in revenues about $190,000, just over $190,000. And if you also remember, we didn't get as much as we anticipated last fiscal year in our early taxes, so that comes into this year. So still a balanced budget. We do not need a deficit reduction plan. Any questions on that? You can always call me or email me with questions, but those were the major changes. So it's just a few line items, pretty big numbers, but just a few line items.
Any questions from the board at this time? If not, any questions from the audience? Keep it moving. Got it. Okay. Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:26. With that, I'd be looking for a motion for the approval of the fiscal year 23 final budget as presented.
Make a motion.
Motion by Andy,
I'll second.
second by Jen. Please poll the board.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item 11, which is the consent agenda, which represents accounts payable in the amount of $1,107,856.16. The August treasurer's report, 2 transfers from the working cash, and that's it. Any questions on any of those items, or does any board member want any of those items pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I'd be looking for a motion for the approval.
I'll make a motion.
A motion, Motion by Andy, second by Ken. Please pull the board.
Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have the finance and facilities updates.
Okay, summer projects are wrapping up. The library was done today. We had asphalt laid for the Gaga pit over at Stanton today. So that's about all that we had left on our docket, except for the cameras here at Lotus. And we're still working with Active Alarm on trying to get cameras that actually will work for us to see outside. So they're bringing in another demo camera, but that will follow shortly. But we just want to make sure that we have the right equipment for when we need it. As far as the summer or the Stanton HVAC, AMC was in. They started up the new pumps and checked all the alignment. They've been coming in, checking some of the individual units for rattling and things like that. So they've been in and out the last couple of weeks trying to make sure that everything is working right. The rooftop units are still due to ship on November 12th. So we're still holding tight with that equipment. And then they're also working on the automated system, the building automated system. And their manning was in, I think, yesterday to start working on that as well. They'll be training us on that system. This week, the end of this week or beginning of next week, we're going to have a kickoff meeting for the chiller at this building. And then once the cooling season has ended, that's when the work will start replacing this chiller. So we're still on schedule with everything that they had proposed in the beginning. So we're getting there. And then we're looking towards next year with replacing roof here and rooftop units. So we're still working on that. But they're getting that put together so we can go out to bid shortly. November, I think that's what their target was November for going out to bid. But everything's working real nicely and it's fairly cool there in most areas.
Brian, how's your room?
Very cool. Thank you.
So Brian's in one of the 5th grade rooms downstairs. That work is complete.
That's why a lot of the work is done downstairs.
One thing that also happened to open the year and got resolved today was the PA system at Stanton. There were 2 pods of the building where we were unable to use a PA system to communicate to them just because the system is old and needed some repairs. So we've patched the system back together. PA is going out and rooms can call to the office, which is the first priority because if there's anything that needed to be communicated out, we wanted to make sure that that could happen. So that's all fixed. We have asked for proposals for what it would take to upgrade the system, just because that system, I could get the date for you, but I believe is about 50 years old. So I'm pretty sure that the fix that happened today involved duct tape, maybe some Wrigley's spearmint gum, and a pickle. I don't know, but it's working. It's MacGyver to fix. If that's a joke, obviously. Sorry, Stanton parents were okay. So it does work, and it's going to be an opportunity, I think, for an upgrade for that community's communication system. But it would hopefully roll into one of the matching grants that we work through the state with, where we contribute half and then they give us money back to split the cost on that upgrade. So we'll obviously investigate that, but the first question is, what's it cost to upgrade a system that really is necessary for student safety? So that would be the only other update that you'll see a future line item on, because we did have to have them on site to get that fixed. Mary, anything else?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, we're winding down with some of our major projects.
The gym over here or installation issues,
Handled.
it's all taken care of.
But yeah, they came in and fixed that.
No leakage with the rain we've had anywhere.
I think that one hard rain, we did have
Last
some
week.
leaking.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We had some leaks.
when we had that 4 inches of
Yeah.
rain.
Here. So there's that.
Do we need to investigate those, take further action on that?
That's something that I would talk to them about in our kickoff meeting and just let them, I think they do know the history. Gosh. Jason Angeles, he was the one who was out. He had taken a look at it as well. But I had mentioned it to him. He's one of the guys on our team that works with the HVAC. So when we have our meeting, I want to make sure that they understand that we still have, that's one of the units that's going to be replaced.
Right.
So I don't know that, we've had several people look at this and it's still kind of a mystery as to where that water's coming from. But it's only when it's severe rain, blowing sideways rain.
Sideways, is that what you're saying, Matt? That will be part of the next project.
Yeah.
All right.
And the only last thing I would mention, and I'll show you in pictures in just a second, as we said, Jeff's an Enchanted Backpack for that huge contribution that they made toward the Stanton Playground. The playground is finished. At least phase one for the bigger kids, obviously the student group, the Principals Advisory Committee would like to pursue a smaller playground set for younger kids in the community so that it really is a community park, but that would be a future wave if we decided to go in that direction. But that project is complete. All that's left is to do a little bit of mulch around it to prevent mud just from where the construction was happening. So, and we'll be working on that for day of service. Anything else? Questions from the board? Great job managing all that, Mary and Don, and Jeff and Rochelle, and all the staff at Stanton for your patience with HVAC. The building was a war zone most of the summer, so thanks for your grace and patience and all of that. Administrative reports, as I said, I'd ask that the personnel report be moved into a closed session topic, please. What I would like to share is some opening of the school year highlights. If you'll give me just a second for some tech switches. It's been, wow, Matt, Natalie, Rochelle, Lynn, Mo. What kind of opening has it been as I'm bringing this up?
Smooth, excited, happy.
Hey, anybody in the audience that's watching from home, this would be a great place to pop in a chat. The question is, what's a one-word check-in on how the year has opened?
We say we're back.
We're back. We're back. Yeah, you can say that for sure. Share a tab then. Amazing, says Mary Santee. Thank you, Mary. I would agree. So I asked the staff to send some pictures and highlights from the opening so far. We're right under a month in back to school, so I felt like this was a good time to just kind of celebrate the good stuff, because at least in my 6 years in District 114, this is hands down the happiest, best, most high energy opening I've been blessed to be a part of. And I would stretch that as far, and I know Maureen and I have talked a little bit about it, like my whole career. This was the best opening I've had a chance to be a part of. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that, but the most important ones are about 700 little, well, and look at Charles, bigger, kids that are back in full form every single day, making every day amazing. Like, we're just so blessed to have the students that we do. So our theme this year was, this is our chance to believe, inspire, and achieve. So with your permission, I'm just going to walk you through some of the awesome things that have happened. So as we welcomed everyone back to school, it has felt like a really magic time, a time for real new beginnings. To be able to focus on teaching and learning and kids and celebration and culture, and not some of the things that the last 2.5 years have forced us to focus on, but rather the things that we all got into the profession to focus on. So that has felt really, really magical. We started out as a full faculty all together back on that Monday in August, thinking about our own kids and who are the kids in our lives that inspire us, who are our most important people. And we all have them, whether they're our own personal kids, some grandkids, nieces, nephews. A lot of our staff refer to students that they've had in the past, but the question was, think about a child who really matters to you, who is that child and why are they so special, just to kind of connect us to the work. Because our families are sending us every day their most important people. So it's important that we treat other people's most important people like we want ours to be treated. So together, we make frames showing pictures of our most important people. So they're mine in an absolutely blatant show of my 3 amazing kids. So Taylor, Braden, and Katie are featured there, and everybody decorated frames the way that they wanted. It was a great chance to just connect. We got up and shared the frames with each other to tell the story of our most important kids. And then the question that we thought about was, is what we're doing good enough for them? Whether it's the bus routes we're providing, the meals we're providing, the classrooms, the furniture, most importantly, the learning and emotional environment that we're creating for our amazing students. Is it what we would want for our most important people? And how can we work together to make sure that the answer to that question is always yes? So that spun us into a little bit of research that helped us get super focused in our work this year. And I would say that as a full learning community, I feel proud flying that flag for Lotus. And Stanton too, one of the things that we dug into is what can we do to even more increase student learning than we ever have? Not because it's our opinion, but because there's a solid research base behind it. So we did a lot of digging at our administrative retreat over the summer. We spent 2 full days together, and the guiding coalitions at each building branched into that learning. And we identified that the research tells us, well, to make maximum growth and learning for students, there are 4 key strategies, and these 4 strategies we hold the keys to in our schools every single day. No matter who comes to us, how they come to us, it's on us to make sure that we're providing grade appropriate work, that we're giving kids the best, strongest instruction that we can, that we engage our students in the work, and that we hold high expectations for our students together. So the research told us that, and we decided together to get even more clear about what that would look like in every learning environment every single day. And I think everybody in this room, I hope, knows me well enough to know that I don't like my name connected to stuff because I'm just one person in this system, but it has a ring to it, I guess. So we call this the Frizz 5. So 5 key things we want to see in every setting every day. And every setting means kids getting on and off the bus, kids heading into the kitchen, kids obviously in and out of their classroom, whether it's a Lotus classroom where they have their home base for most of the day, or classrooms at Stanton where they may be alternating rooms every single period. We picked 5 high leverage strategies, again, not just because we think so, but because there's a research base behind it to make sure these actions are happening every day. So, and some of them sound simple, but the research tells us they make huge bang for the buck in terms of kids, learning, behavior, culture, engagement, and belonging. So the first is making sure that we're giving our students a personal greeting at the door, which sounds like a little thing, but it makes a big difference. It means that all of our staff has to be absolutely ready to go. There's no shuffling of papers, there's no running making copies. When kids come through the door, our teachers are there ready to greet them. Can be a high five handshake, can be a question of the day. Teachers are bringing their own individual style to it, and I can tell you that kids are already in the habit of waiting in the door and knowing that they're going to get that personal check-in every day. The second key attribute is that we're super specific about the learning targets in every classroom, every content area, every day, so that we and more importantly, the students know exactly what they're expected to know and be able to do as a result of that day's instruction. So it takes things like these big learning standards that obviously are driving our work, but boils it down to, because this is what we're doing today, this is what I expect you to know and be able to do. Which then turns into an SEL, or social emotional learning skill of focus. So how are you going to behave? How will we treat each other so we can all do that work? Then an engagement task to make sure that the students are as or more engaged in the work and the learning than our teachers are. And then finally, a check for understanding that can be as informal as a thumbs up, sideways, thumbs down, an exit slip, or something even more formal than that starts to feel like an assessment. But in every interval of instruction, checking for understanding. That these things get done is non-negotiable. How it gets done, we rely on the grace, the expertise of our teachers to figure that out. But we've also built a huge bank of ways to do this, so everybody has that as a resource, and we add to it constantly. Like Stanton just spent 2 Wednesdays working on the check for understanding together and built their own document that's linked into this major set of here's how you can do these things. It's the most focus I've ever felt in my leadership. When we're walking through, this is what we're walking through looking for. We're coaching each other in it. I would invite, even we got 2 classroom teachers in the room, I would invite, no pressure, but maybe a little. Brian and Mo, like, this is all of us doing the work. How has it felt as we've kind of made the shift? It's not taking away anything. Obviously, we're working in ARC. We're working in Amplify, which are the adapted materials. We've added Number Corner to help go back and work on some of those foundational math skills. So those pieces are still in effect. It's more about how are we as educators, ourselves included as administrators, doing the work. Any thoughts from you?
It feels focused. It feels, after so many years in, I just refocused on reinforcing those targets with my kids. Okay, today we're working on how to add fluently within 20, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it's for. And so it's a nice reminder for me to make sure I'm giving that to them instead of expecting them to just understand. And I love the SEL skill focus of the day because it keeps them focused on one little thing. Okay, what are we working on today? Ours is listening without interrupting. A lot of little people want to tell me what their dog's name is in the middle of a math lesson. I think it's easy for them it simplifies it for them. It keeps it focused for them. And keeps it focused for me.
And me.
And piggyback on what Mo just said too, for us as administrators walking into the room, we know where to look for those targets so that we're not having to play catch up, so we know immediately. So when I walk into Mo's room today, I know how to help the student right away if she's at the back table with a small group of kids. So it just keeps everyone very focused, not even for the kids, but for the big adults coming in and out too.
I think it whittles it down for them. It's not so big picture for them. It's, okay, this is where I am today, and this is my goal for today. Makes it attainable for them.
Brian, anything you add?
I just kind of think it feels complete, from like reading at the door, to having them know what we're doing for the day, and then inviting them in the learning process instead of the teacher just standing and talking. They're doing the learning and talking, and then checking to make sure at the end that is complete. So it feels complete to me in a way, kind of all wrapped up.
Thank you very much. Michelle, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, it's been great going into the classrooms and seeing it all. It's been a lot of fun, and like Natalie said, it gives us a focus, but more or less like from the start of the class until the end. It's just fun to see like the progress of the kids and what they're learning along the way.
I'll hypothesize, and I think we should probably, as I'm sitting here, we should probably ask. I would think lots of our paraprofessionals jump across classrooms. So they have schedules that kind of send them everywhere. I would have to believe that would help them be more clear in their role too, to come in, know exactly where to look for exactly what the skills of focus is so that they can more specifically support kids in that work too. So this is kind of where we started. And so what it starts to look like is pictures like this. So we have our littlest learners reading with Fiona, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. We have students engaged, a bunch of collaborative tasks coming back to school. Kids working in different projects in the bottom left and upper right corner, both at Lotus and at Stanton. Kelly Rowland sent me pictures of her third grade class, just so glad to be back in school. And I think a lot of those just kind of sum up how it feels. Like, look at the smiles on the faces. That's how it feels to me back at school. The specials here at Lotus sent me a bunch of pictures because they love seeing the kids in the rotations that they get to. In PE, you can see they've added a visual schedule to help our students be even clearer about the PE expectations. PE can be a very overwhelming time, especially for our littles. So having the visual schedule helps them know exactly what's going to come next. And then up in the upper right, you can see how they're linking what the student is working on in PE with a physical task. They're finding alphabet letters. So they're bridging with our primary teachers to connect the foundational literacy skills into PE motion and movement. That's not a new thing, but it was something Amber sent a picture of just because she gets so excited about it. Up in the center picture is one of our students sitting and reading with some of her friends here in our updated library. And then down in the bottom, Gail sent a picture from Art where they're making their own hero trade cards. So they're personal Pokemon cards, where the students are sharing strengths about themselves, modeling that kind of format in their artwork, which I just think is awesome. At Stanton, you can see in Project Lead the Way, or our STEM class, the kids had to create orthotics in a small group. So you can see some of their demo lessons. They're also learning to be triage nurses. So on Thursday, I'm going over to be part of the project. And I have a script that I follow, and they're supposed to, I am patient number 4. So they're going to triage me, and my job is to check for understanding on the progression of questions that they're supposed to ask in that process to get to figure out what my illness is. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be awesome. And then, you know that we're all about making lemonade from lemons. So we were having a heck of a time finding a straight up music teacher for Stanton. And with Brian's help, he hooked us up to someone he's very familiar with. And Brian Kraus is all about music technology. And so we've made some shifts from, bucket drumming and some of what you would kind of always see in a middle school music room, which is good stuff, into a lot more music design, music composition. So this is a student sharing, I don't remember what date this was, but we're like a week and a half into school, and this is a student using his Chromebook to show the music composition that he's made. It's amazing what's happening. He is going to be working with kids to make passing period playlists of their music. It's a really cool environment to get to be a part of. So I want to thank Brian for connecting us with Brian, because it's taken music to a place I don't know that we would have ever thought to go, that the kids are just loving. Good. Love it? Awesome. So that's a little bit of the highlights of the specials. Obviously, I'm really glad I put these slides in, especially since I forgot Lotus's recognition. The model school status, here we have the full faculty together on the day the staff found out that they were getting that recognition, which was awesome. And then the all hands in by the Guiding Coalition, who does a lot of heavy lifting in partnership with Natalie here at Lotus. It's just a rock star team, and couldn't be more proud of them. Stanton, if you know Jeff, he is a Twitter freak. So when I asked for pictures, he sent me, I think, 27 different tweets that he posted that he wanted included. So I picked 2. It's probably good that he's not here to see that I only selected 2. But we all have different styles in how we celebrate and what we do. Jeff's great on Twitter, so you can see him featuring a bunch of kids doing lots of different things. In this first tweet selection, you see both Walter Nichols and Matt Shannon doing that personal greeting at the door with students, kids involved in lots of different things. Just lots of happy faces, lots of positive energy. At both sites, this helps you see Stanton a little bit, along with obviously the kids on the playground. It's always in use, like always during hours, after hours. So what an incredible investment for our community. Down in the bottom, first day of school, we had Camp Duncan back out for community building activities with the kids. So this is one of the tasks that they had to do, was all in motion together, move those walking sticks together. And then a piece that I think is really telling the story about how awesome Stanton is. I'm looking at Rochelle because she's such a big part of it, along with the whole faculty, is that if we look just at office discipline referrals in the first 15 days of school, last year we had 20 in the first 15 days, and this year there were only 8 in the first 15 days, and I don't believe there were any detentions that resulted from any of those, and that was a very different story as well. So that tells the story of how the staff is doing, how the kids are doing. The addition, you remember we talked last month that we were having a difficult time finding the second social worker for each of the buildings, and so we opted to look for school counselors instead. I don't know how you found them, but both Nicole and Megan are absolutely part of the missing piece that we needed from the social emotional side for our students, and they are already playing a huge part in how kids are doing and feeling, and staff too, along with Ellie, who's our social worker here at Lotus, and Kim, who's a social worker at Stanton. So great things happening there. Our clubs and activities are all back, which just lights us all up. There's a volleyball picture down at the bottom from, this is what's cool about this volleyball match is it was both teams coming together. So those are our 7th graders and 8th graders cheering each other on. So the 7th grade team had won a tight match. And then this is 7th and 8th grade coming together because 8th poured out of the bleachers to cheer on the 7th graders before the 8th graders played. And the 8th grade ending wasn't as happy as 7th grade, but they were still super happy for each other. And then up in the top is Chess Club here at Lotus. And remember, all of these things haven't been around for a while. And it just speaks to the importance of having those funds allocated in the budget, the process commemorated in our collective bargaining agreement, and just that commitment to taking care of kids during the school day, but also giving them opportunities afterward. Would also add the importance of us and the board in particular bringing back the 2 afternoon late routes at Stanton for activities, because we are fully staffed in the bus fleet. We're not able to run those 2 4:30 bus routes, one to the south side, one to the north side. And most kids I talk to say that that's making participation in activities possible for them. So that is just another huge win, because we know that kids who are engaged in their school feel better at school, have higher levels of learning at school. It's just a better place for them, and that's one of our tells of how we're doing. Family involvement, I'm thrilled to say that we're getting parents back in the building. So this is our pre-K gym night, where we finally have parents back in. We're bringing back some of the things that we have done so well, Natalie and the pre-K team, for so long that we haven't been able to do. So Michelle Magna sent me several pictures, so she too would be angry that I only picked 2, so let's not tell her. But you see kids involved here with their teachers, paraprofessionals, and their families. And these are our littlest ones, some of our most at-risk learners coming here and seeing school as a home. The last thing I want you to know is I've made an effort to talk to some of our new students, so our brand new move-ins, and these are 2 of them that you'll see featured here. We have Iris and Ricky. Iris is a 3rd grader here at Lotus, and Ricky is a 6th grader at Stanton. And both of them, so we do unprompted interviews. They just come in and chat with me. They have no idea what I'm going to ask. Both of them have said, and they've been, both of them, to lots of different schools on their own. When I say, what do you like about Lotus Stanton? This is the best school I've ever been at. So I really don't ask them, so isn't this the best school? I just say, what do you think? I gave them both the opportunity to tell us things that we're doing better, or that we could be doing better. Iris had some suggestions. Ricky just smiled and said, this is the best school I've ever been at. And personally, one of the things that's filling my bucket is thanks to the staff. They indulge me with the Friday with Frizz. So every Friday, I interview a student or students and send it out to the faculty just so that they can know what our kids are saying. So we'll be turning the corner from new students into talking with students about those Frizz 5. You know, what's it feel like to have a personal greeting at the door? And there are things we could be doing better with learning targets. We're all still getting used to that. Right now, I just want to see how the kids are feeling. And it has, I think they've liked it. I think I've liked it way more, because our kids are just amazing people. So, and to hear 2 of them unprompted say, this is the best school I've ever been at. It's exactly what we're after. So, yeah, that's a little bit about how it's going. Closing with one of my favorite quotes ever by Margaret Mead that says that don't ever doubt that a small group of really committed people can make a big difference. It's the only thing that ever has, and it's happening here because of everybody that's a part of the system. So I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more happy, and more genuinely hopeful about where things are going than they've ever been. So I don't know. Maybe they want to add.
Just want to say too, as I'm looking at all these pictures and the celebrations, that this is just natural. Because this happens not just for the kickoff for the school year, it goes on throughout the school. We get so many emails that are like, here's a picture, this is what's going on, this is a great celebration. And it goes back and forth between even like Stanton and Lotus. We get to see what the kids are doing over at Stanton. You know, people are just proud and they just want to celebrate what you're doing in the classroom and how the kids are just enjoy learning.
Thank you. So that's my bit of sparkly good news tonight. We'll go on to topics like sex ed. Any questions or anything you'd like to know?
Oh, everything sounds great.
Good.
All right. So, thanks for that bit of time. That was fun to put together. And again, don't tell Jeff and Michelle I only showed some of their pictures. All right, so those are the opening of the school year highlights. Let's shift to sex ed. I don't know if you all had the opportunity, I know it arrived in my Lake County mailbox, but to see things like this, which was a
Yes.
whole edition from the Lake County Gazette on sex ed curriculum, what's happening in Lake County. So I thought it was an important time for us to time out, and I thank Ken for bringing the topic up. Fortunately, I was able to answer his question with, yep, it's already on the agenda. What is this looking like in District 114? So I put together a memo for you, which I hope you had the chance to consider, that basically sums up kind of what's cooking. So without memoizing it, here's the gist. We have known for a long time that, and remember the giant press packet that we kept working through policy. So policy 660 was in there the whole time. And the reason I didn't bring it forward is because through Lake County superintendents and our legislative liaisons, we were told all along that where 660 was starting was going to shift and change. So the original version of policy 660, and you could see it in the version that I gave you, there was a highlighted footnote that stated that any school district in Illinois had to adopt the full national sex education standards, which were updated as was indicated on the cover of the memo, to be much more broad sweeping, both in terms of its content and its grade levels where content was taught than we've ever had before. So I put the link to those standards in here just so you could familiarize yourself with it if you're interested in learning more. I screenshotted on here some of the shifts that were new topic strands added to those standards. But I held off on bringing the conversation forward because everything was telling us, as we had hoped common sense would prevail, that an all or nothing approach would not be where we were left. Because many of us were not comfortable with much of the content or the scope of conversation that was outlined in these new trends. And specifically, again, the links are here for you to look through the whole document, but things about talking about things related to specifically LGBTQ, transgenderism, hormone therapies down in the primary grades is what's outlined in these standards. And in talking with a variety of teachers, with Kim Husko, who's our health teacher, with the administrative team, with the sampling community members, and after 6 years knowing our community, that didn't feel like a reflection of us. So what I'm bringing forward and what Kim and I would bring forward in terms of health content would be the summary that is on the back of page 2 of the memo. So when I met with legal counsel from IASA 2 weeks ago, what we thought was going to happen happened, which was not you have to teach all of this exactly as it's written, or you can't teach sex ed at all, family life at all. A far more reasonable place was struck to say, you can teach the extent that you want to. You can't contradict what's in the sex ed standards, but that doesn't mean you have to cover them all. So, and Kim Husko and I have been talking about this since the whole topic came up. Recommendations within 660 that stand are things like you got to have your standards posted and accessible to the public. Families have to have a way to opt out of all of this if they don't want their kids to be a part of it. You have to have a formal process that's communicated in plenty of time before instruction for families to ask about, preview, come in and hold, or opt out of the content. We've had the opt-out process in place forever. We just need to streamline it more and then use this as an opportunity to get really clear for our community what we mean by health instruction in District 114, which is why I included for you the standards 5, 6, 7, and 8 exactly as they have prior to the national sex ed standards been instructed, bringing those forward. So where Kim and I feel comfortable coming forward, her with the expertise and the certification in health education, me coming forward as a superintendent, would be the proposal that's down here in bold, which would be continue to implement health education in grades 5 through 8, comply with those parameters above, meaning families having the advance notice, the opportunity to review the content and resources, and the option to opt out. Continue to focus on the standards used prior to all of that, which are delineated right here, and not expand specific sexuality-based health instruction to lower grades, nor to add the new topic strands identified in the National Sex Ed Standards. So that is the proposal that I'm bringing forward on behalf of health, behalf of Stanton, behalf of District 114. In terms of health instruction in the primary grades, what that looks like, if you'll just look right over to the side of the Learning Center, what that looks like is things like fire safety and bike safety. We don't even begin to touch the topic of my parts, your parts, all the parts until 5th grade. And you can see specifically in here, grades 5 through 8, exactly what is taught. This is not currently posted because I want this board to know what's being posted before it goes up. This is a hot topic, so I want you to feel ready to speak to it if you're asked to. So with that, I would put forward, and because this aligns to policy 660, I'm not asking for a vote on anything right now. This would be how we operationalize 660. 660 is in the packet as a first reading with a whole bunch of markups for your consideration and review, with a final approval giving you time to look at it until the October meeting. What I will tell you is that the instruction begins in October. So with the board's permission, I would be looking to get the standards posted, to implement the opt-out program, to communicate how parents can access and see the resources and do communication around that. I think it would be the right thing to do before we approve the policy, because then all of our families will know this is how we're going to operate. Get any feedback on that. I can bring the feedback to you in case we need to make revisions to 660 based on how our community is feeling. There was a lot of me talking.
And it's required to be implemented this quickly, and
Yeah, 22,
everything's
23.
gonna be in place.
Yes. And again, where we thought we were going is you do it all or you don't do anything. And I have a real big problem with not doing anything. I don't think that's right. I think there's information that our kids need to know that is a balance of facts and beliefs. I believe it's the family's ultimate responsibility to teach the kids beliefs that reflect their family values, but there are also facts that professional educators can and should share with them. The scope of those facts I don't think are appropriate to bring forward in alignment with the broad strokes of the updated National Sex Ed Standards.
So the list of districts that we've seen opting out are no longer teaching now.
So those decisions were brought forward by superintendents to boards when it was the all or nothing. So I would anticipate now that it's not all or nothing, those will be superintendents and boards that have to work backwards, which is, to be honest with you, Brian, exactly why I didn't bring 660 forward, because I didn't want us to spend time in a conversation with a lot of emotion behind it that I thought was going to end up in a place where we could make a more common sense decision. I don't know what those districts will do. They could stay where they are. My bet would be most of them will consider a more middle of the road perspective.
And how, as a board or a parent, do we keep a pulse on stuff not creeping into the mix somewhere down the road? Or I guess that's, I mean.
Well, that's the whole point of 660 is we can't bring something in. We can't sneak something in. We have to be overt and say, related to this topic, this is exactly what's instructed. It's my job to watch that. It's Rochelle.
It will be spelled out and. Great.
Yeah, and that's the goal of policy 660. is to say whatever's being taught in health specifically related, well, it's all the health topics, but specifically related to family life, must be current, accessed on the website, and under 660, this board has to be okay with it. Not how it's taught, but what is taught.
This is what's been being taught for,
Yes.
like, my daughter, for example, last
Correct.
4 years, 5 years.
Correct. Yep.
That was well put together, thank you.
Absolutely.
Very-
You know what, I would have to give huge thanks to Kim Husko because she put all of the documents together. So in this handout are obviously the memo from me, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade specific standards. I do want to be clear that when you look at these, there are national sex health ed standards on here. There always have been. This was always a living, breathing document. They just broadened the scope and added new topic strands. So when you see it, you can see exactly what from those standards has been taught and included in our program. Then the last document in this packet would be the draft. And I typically don't bring administrative procedure forward to the board, but knowing the complexities of this topic, you can see that back in the back, it's 660 AP1. You see that it's got red draft across the top, would be how we would specifically implement 660 when approved, just so you can see it all. Any other questions that I can answer for the board?
Would it be, so in terms of timeframes, 660, you don't have to report it to anybody, or how's that work in terms of, who are we complying to?
We're complying with the state of Illinois.
Okay,
What that would look like is, so whenever we approve a board policy, like the second readings that we'll do tonight, when we do the final approval, Christy adds to it the meeting approval date. So what would happen then is in our compliance audit, which we don't have this year, we had it 2 years ago, when the regional office comes through and looks at compliance, we have to give them access to all of our board policy. They then check, per this mandate, did you do what you needed to do in the time that you needed to do it? So that's how it would be cross-checked.
and would it be wise, because it is such a hot topic, to address it to the parents of the district in
Yeah.
some form or fashion?
My plan was to bring this into a simpler form, and with the boards, once we get to 660, get this language out there. We need to be, like I said, instruction is beginning, so I'd rather be in compliance with 660 and approve it in its draft form. Not approve it, but live by it. Because when we live by it with a topic such as this, get the information out to the community. If there are revisions we need to make, we'll do it in time for the final approval, but we'll be in compliance when we post the standards, when we post, here's how you access and can ask for review, for example, and here's how you would opt out. We will be in compliance with 660.
And I guess just a desire to avoid the pitchforks or whatever. They could be pitchforks on both sides as far as I'm concerned, but as far as how, like I said, I already have seen lists of districts that opted out, and some people are clapping their hands on that, and obviously some people probably aren't, but how does that, so we will not be opting out, we'll just be implementing our own
Correct.
thing.
Correct.
So I just want that to be extremely
Got it.
clear that
We're not opting in.
we're not, yeah, we're this is our carved out little health curriculum, and these are the line items and bullet points that will be taught, and we don't need to upset any apple carts and be upset about any of it, hopefully.
What I can tell you is that Kim reports, and so, I want to factor in that this is a, before kind of the emotion around this from both sides. I appreciate you saying that. Kim typically has one or two parents in a given year that ask to see the content or want to opt out. She then contacts them personally to explain, give access to the resource. It is a rare thing that we actually have a family that opts their child out once they know what's going to be taught. So my greatest hope, Brian, is what you just said, is if we can be clear about how we're operating, it won't cause pitchforks because people haven't, knock on wood, have been A-okay with health, education, and particularly family life.
And that's, I mean, with the publicity that it's getting and the fact that it's about as clear as mud at this point in terms of what opting out actually meant versus what you just explained. Again, that needs to be pointed out as clearly as possible that
Got it.
opting, not opting in or opting out, this is our curriculum and this is what it is. So that, then if someone's upset with it, then they can make their own personal opt-out decision.
Exactly. And everybody has the right to do that as well.
Parents will have the ability to go through and see what we're seeing here.
Yep.
That's important.
These will be posted tomorrow. I just want to have communication that goes with it, with the kind of clarity that Brian's talking about, what we're doing moving forward. Any other board comments? Do you feel that you have the information you need to speak on this topic if asked? Because you can always direct people back to me, but I also know if I'm a board member, I want to be able to speak to it myself as well.
Yes.
I do. I mean, with parents having access to this, it makes it very simple.
Okay.
They're either gonna be able to read through it, and they're gonna be able to look and say what they don't like and communicate that back to you or whoever. That's very helpful. To Brian's point, there's so much that's unclear that you've actually presented in a very clear way, so it needs to understand and go through. I appreciate that.
Right.
And as always, if any board members receive any feedback, of course, the negative, forward that information to Heather.
I'm happy to talk to anybody. I know I'm a parent too. I've got littles of my own and I have pretty strong opinions on this myself. So, okay. Fantastic. Thank you. To a happier topic, if you can take a look at Exhibit K. This.
I think we have.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, were we allowed to ask questions on that topic?
Are you going to entertain that?
It's one of those things, depending how specific it gets.
Yeah, it's not a waste of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so there's been a lot of reports and examples across the country, you guys may or may not know, just about vulgar and explicit material making its way into the library that children have access to. And I wasn't certain if that was going to be covered under what you guys just discussed for this own topic. And my question is, where are we on that in the district? And I guess what precautions or what's the current process of vetting books before they make it on the shelves? So it's not something that we're catching on the back end after it makes its way into a child's hands, as opposed to catching the front. So
right.
That was my question.
Yeah, so we received a Freedom of Information Act request on exactly what you're talking about. How many complaints have we received? Have we been asked to pull any books from our shelves? And the answer to that is 0. So we have a process for that. There's board policy. I'm not going to be able to remember which one off the top of my head, but the policy you would follow to issue a complaint related to curriculum. So that's how, as any community member, you could respond to that, to your point, once it's on the shelf. before it goes on the shelf, both of our library media aides, so Kim here and Betty Stanton, every book that's purchased is vetted through the principal and me. So nothing gets approved for purchase without us saying yes or no on that. Can I say that I've read every single book that we approve for purchase? Absolutely not. So it takes us trusting each other. It takes me having faith in our 2 employees to put materials on the shelf that are appropriate for kids, that do give them access to different perspectives, but in an appropriate, developmentally appropriate way for them. Both of them have been long-term employees, so when I can tell you that we've had no books pulled from the shelf, that makes me feel really confident in their abilities. To this date, I haven't, so I've been here 6 years, I haven't been issued a family complaint about the materials that have come home from our library shelves. We have had a complaint one time around content related to 9/11 and how it was presented. That wasn't a library issue. That was something that happened in a grade level conversation, and so we handled that with the team. During elections, we had a complaint around kids being asked to cast a vote in a situation in a mock election. And so we handled that because we had some parents that weren't comfortable with that question being asked. And so we handled that. So I think we're as proactive as we can. Every book that's purchased does come through administration. Have I read them all? No. Do I trust my employees? They've been here a long time. They're both community members. I trust them to know. They have a history of not having claims come against us or having families that worry about that content. If I did have a family that was worried, we would work with them on that because we're a partnership for the kids that we serve. Like I said, you guys send us your most important people and we want them cared for. So that would be how things would go. I don't know if that thoroughly answers your question or not. I'd be happy to send you the board policy that says what.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
So, yeah, it sounds like there's, you guys being proactive on the front end, but obviously you're human.
Yeah.
So you can't get to all of them. But if there's something that's questioned, then we have the right to essentially appeal it.
You absolutely do. And there's policy around that guarantees that right.
Okay. Yeah, I think the general public would probably, just advice, probably want to know your stance on that as well.
Okay. Great timing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all curricular content. The other thing that our families can expect to see coming soon is literally every standard that's instructed across the grade levels, across the content areas being posted on our website. So if I'm a 6th grade parent, I'll be able to click and see this is everything that's instructed. Where I think we'll have to do some family education is those are pieces to be mastered by the end of 6th grade, not at the beginning. So lots of times families will look at that and go, oh my God, my kid doesn't know. You're not supposed to. This is the contract, but by the end of the year, by the end of kindergarten. So that will be coming soon. It's not that we're trying to hide anything. We just want to make sure it's in its most professional shape. But we're parents too. We send our kids to school. We have the same concerns our families do. We want to be transparent. And if there's a problem that comes up, we want to solve it together. So I appreciate you asking the question. Thank you very much. Anything else? Okay. Really? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. The next agenda item is the LEA determination. So you see our letter from the Illinois State Board of Education saying that in every single way, District 114 meets all requirements, Lynn Smolin and everybody involved with special education, yes, again. So that is a big deal. I could get a round of applause on that one. So Lynn is obviously special ed coordinator. She leads the work. She doesn't do all the work. Every person in our system contributes to this. When we say one team all in, that's what we mean, every employee and every student. So no matter what classroom a student may be a part of, we're all responsible for their success. The second page of this document shows you the specific data and that fiscal risk on the single audit. If you'll scroll your eyes, I guess, all the way down to the bottom of the fiscal 2021 state target, no audit findings, everything is met across several years of data now, and tiered level of support is 1, meaning we don't need anything other than the work that we're doing. So that is wonderful news. And that reflects the data for both schools. That's Lotus to Stanton, pre-K through 8th grade. Okay, any questions on that? Lynn, anything you want to say? You want a cupcake? Awesome. All right, so next topic, which is kind of linked to the previous, is a review of policy 710. So we're not doing anything with 710, but I want to review it and its procedures related to current implications on our kids, our processes, and our facilities. So just so the board remembers, and 710 is actually included in your handout. 710 is the Equal Educational Opportunities Policy. It was updated and approved in the second final reading in May of 2022. So equal opportunities applies to lots of different things, and I'm sure you've memorized the policy. Specifically where I would like to bring forward district procedures, and it's another delicate balancing act. So I want to say that up front. We have more and more students who are expressing requests for accommodations on the basis of gender identity. That's not happening at Lotus. I don't believe we've had anything come forward here. It's happening at Stanton with increasing frequency. Increasing frequency meaning under 5 students annually. So let's speak in facts here. Policy 710 says and guarantees that all kids have equal access to their educational opportunities, spaces, places, and all the things. So as most middle and high schools are working through this, it's something that legal counsel has said get ahead of. So that's what I'm bringing forward for the board's consideration. I did survey all the districts in Lake County, asking for feedback on their middle and junior high schools only. So I'm not really interested in, well, it's not that I'm not interested. It's good to know what high schools are doing. We're not a high school district. I want to know what other middle schools are doing. So you can see the survey prompts that were put out here. I do now have 11 district responses, and please know that those are districts. Many of them have multiple junior highs. So just keep that. This is 11 districts now, so you can add a plus. It just came in on my phone, a +1 to every single data point. So gender neutral bathrooms with signage would be a 7. And now I can say at least 5 have done that using staff bathrooms that were already indicated as gender neutral. Staff bathrooms accessible to students would be 7, now 8. Students using bathroom of choice would be 6, now 7. But in 5 of those situations, when we say bathroom of choice, that means that staff bathroom. Students using locker room of choice is now 4. Additional privacy areas for changing in locker rooms is now 7. Require a school developed gender support plan for students to access alternative facilities. That is a 6. Then under that, and then there is 1 district doing nothing. So don't add to that because that obviously wouldn't make any sense. Comments from other middle school districts with middle schools. We're in the middle of this process right now, considering use of a locker room and bathroom of choice once the gender developed support plan is in place. Another district have had no request for accommodations. Another district create an individual plan with a social worker. Another district, we just upgraded our middle schools, come visit, but there weren't details around what that means. None, we have not faced this issue, but the plan will be to make staff bathrooms accessible to students. We don't dress for PE, so we won't have locker room issues. And then single occupancy bathrooms is the action of another, or the feedback from another district. Informally, 2 other districts who didn't do the survey but gave me what they were doing, is they're not making any shifts. And then another district with a gender support plan, students are permitted to use staff bathrooms that have been shifted to gender neutral with signage. So what does that look like at Stanton while we're trying to balance everything? So we have students coming forward who aren't comfortable changing in public. So that's not a gender issue. That is, I don't want to change in front of people. I'm in the locker room. I have a 6th grader who's changing in PE for the first time, and she's completely freaked out about it. So she changes in a stall area in the locker room. So I don't want all this to get mushed together, but I want everything clear. So here's what things look like at Stanton is when a student and or their family comes forward requesting facilities accommodations, they are required to join us together to co-create a gender support plan, and that plan is attached here for your reference. So you can see exactly what the conversation would sound like. This is done in collaboration with the principal, our school nurse, and then the social worker or counselor. So that would be Kim, who I see on the screen, or Megan. We've added additional privacy areas for changing in each of the locker rooms because we've had kids, regardless of anything else, ask for those spaces. What was in place was in the girls' locker room, 2 stalls to change in, and the boys, there was 1. So now we've taken what were the shower spaces that we've honestly been using as storage. And there are now in each locker room 3 spaces curtained off with chairs in them. So if I'm a boy in the boys' locker room and I don't want to change in front of people, I can go in there and change. Conversely, girls in the girls' locker room can go to the privacy stall and change. There is absolutely no intent of locker room of choice at all. These are middle schoolers. Our job is to protect the safety of everyone, not interested in that conversation. I even asked my son, who is an 8th grade boy, albeit super goofy, and said, what would it feel like for you? Which potentially isn't an appropriate question or statement for me to bring forward to the board, but I am a mom, I am a citizen, and I am also a superintendent. And he said, I don't think any 8th grader can handle that.
Can or cannot?
Can. He's like, I wouldn't be comfortable with having someone not identifying as not biologically male coming in the locker room. I wouldn't, and this is from the mouth of my son. So it's about that middle ground of safety and understanding for everyone. So when we have, and we don't right now, so please know that, we absolutely do have students biologically born in one gender identifying as the opposite, 1,000%. And we have for what, 2 years? At this point, we need to put none of these accommodations in place because none of them have the gender support plan. We're just trying to get ahead of this so that we're in a place of readiness, balancing safety and equal access for one with safety and equal access for all. That's what we're trying to reflect here. So the privacy areas are just good for all kids. There's no intent to cross anything in those locker rooms. And then allowing students with access to a private bathroom as a part of a gender support plan, they can use what's already identified as a gender neutral staff bathroom. It is in the main hall at Stanton. It already has dual gender signage notified. It's right outside the gym. So if any student needed that separate space with the gender support plan, they would have access to that. That gives the student access and doesn't impact any other student. The only students that would be able to access that space would be those who have the gender support plan, because that is also the one and only staff bathroom at Stanton. And again, right now, we have no students asking for that. So, as I said at the closing of this, we believe that for now and until a student or family requests significantly different accommodations, it's a balance for everyone. For us to stay in compliance with 710, which is equal opportunities. I will tell you that legal counsel has said, when, not if, but when a situation arises, be ready. Because 710 is your policy for equal access, and 710 is where anyone requesting something different because of anything will go. So this is us trying to take a balanced step to be ready, to be able to hit a compromise that we can live with for all, knowing that we're working in a middle school. We've got 11 to 14-year-olds trying to understand what's developmentally appropriate for them, balancing everything. So basically, nothing changes. In our practice, nothing changes. That single stall restroom is already there. The gender neutral signage is already there. We've talked about adding changing areas to the locker rooms. That's just good for kids. There's no intent to cross gender or allow locker room of choice for kids, because I don't think our students, I love them, but I don't think they're in a place where they can handle that right now. So we create options where students can have equal access to change for PE, which would be the single stall locker room. They can also go to the nurse's office. They can do exactly what they need to do. Again, with a gender support plan so that we can monitor who's doing what with the input of their family and allow everybody to have access and protection under 710 of equal rights. Not equal rights, equal access. Does that make sense? So this is not anything that requires board action. I just wanted, it's another topic that's out there, so let's get ahead of it. Let's talk about what the policy means. Let's talk about what our implementation will mean. And let's communicate it out so that our community knows.
Now, is this discussed with the students?
With the students in whole, as a population?
Yeah.
No.
So hypothetical situation, someone decides that they're going in their non-biological bathroom
Mhm.
today just to,
They wouldn't have access to it.
why wouldn't they? What prevents me from going?
Because the door's not open. Oh, you mean just going in?
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
we have cameras that would show us that. We're increasing
I
cameras.
know, so how does that situation get dealt with?
Well, that would be discipline.
And our PE teachers are greeting at the door of the locker rooms, so they know who's going.
But
in.
even, and I can appreciate that, but even just like a passing
Mhm.
in the halls, and doesn't matter the gender, but they decide today that they're going to,
Yeah, so the clear expectation is you use the bathroom, that is yours. If that has been identified as one of the PBIS expectations, have we gone as far as to say, hey, don't cross to a different gender bathroom? No. If a student did that,
Uh-huh.
that to me would be a tell that we gotta step in.
well, and
Could it happen? Sure.
yeah, it seems like it's.
Could kids vape in the bathroom? Yep. And lots of things can happen in the bathroom. We can't have cameras in the
I
bathroom.
guess this is where I'm having the disconnect, so there's nothing for these individuals that identify as to whatever they identify as. They don't have to come forward to you, but they could put us in the trick bag real quick by saying, well, then why was I prevented from using that bathroom?
Because they don't have a gender support plan in place. That's part of the protocol.
So but how do they
have to
know
come up
that?
to her.
That's what I'm
Well,
getting at.
yeah, when they slide into the wrong restroom,
That's when,
it's going right to administration
Correct.
and they're talking to that student.
So
and
then
typically
letting
that's
them
not
know
what
the
it would
plan,
look like.
right.
And certainly there are outlier cases and we're all learning. Typically more along the lines of what it sounds like is a student identifying to us that they want to be called by a different name. And so that's how we start to get involved. Rochelle, would you agree that that's the most frequently
Correct.
occurring when a
Correct.
student is in a place where they're,
Yeah, and a lot of times we have weekly what's called student success team meetings where we're talking about students and the different supports they need. So a lot of times the teachers will bring up students that have said to them, I want to be called a different name. And that triggers us to get a hold of our social worker and counselor who then would approach them and talk to them first of all and really find out really what's going on. But then, if they wanted to take it to the next level, then this gender support plan would come into place.
Right. And so we have a student right now who expressed a desire, but when we had the conversation about, so the next step in the procedure would be the gender support plan, the family conversation, absolutely not interested. And that's where we are right now.
Again, I'm not trying to,
It's okay.
I'm just trying
It's
to wrap
okay.
my own head around it, but in the nexus of this whole thing that's going on right now with this type of stuff, the fact that someone has to come forward to proclaim that, isn't that being somewhat of an issue? I mean,
Could it be? Yeah.
Are we supposed to be moving towards the point of who gives a blank to go into whatever bathroom we want to go in? Is that what?
Yeah, but then
the
you have to
end
look
goal
at
is, or what?
710 as, but what what's my equal access? If I'm 12, if I'm 13%, and that's why I wanted information from middle schools only. If it was you making that decision that I'm gonna do and be whoever I
Because
want,
there's some people out there that, I mean, I'm 100% confirmed will push it to the limit on the parent end and on every other end of it to the spectrum
Yep.
of, all right, I'm filing my lawsuit, you know, I went in the bathroom today and next thing I know, everyone.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's,
it is,
as long as that's where we're at, we know that's the case.
it's where we are, and the reason I'm bringing this forward is a piece of due diligence in 710 is to say we do have a procedure established for how we can ensure equal access to whoever, whatever student that is.
Well, and then I guess.
So if we did it as a reactive, lawsuit waiting to happen. The fact that we're doing it proactively and saying, here's where we're
I guess
accommodating.
on the next proactive, not that I encourage it or one way or the other, but I guess my next thought would be that it needs to be discussed on almost a school-wide basis as to, we need to have a discussion of how our bathrooms and our locker rooms.
Is there anything in the student handbook regarding this issue if somebody wants to gender identify?
No, because we're working through all of that right now through the lens of how are we complying with 710. So no, it's absolutely not. It can for sure be added. My question about that with all due respect is sometimes when you bring something to light with middle schoolers in particular, it makes that topic more
They
desirable
wanna do it.
Sure.
than if we,
I can
it's not,
appreciate
if
that as
it's,
well.
it's, and I hate this expression, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. Our
Well-
kids are following the expectations. They know what we
Yeah,
expect.
And I just, in terms of living in a litigious society that, who knows what's
Well,
coming down the
we were threatened with a lawsuit today, not on this topic, but it happens frequently.
Yeah, no
It's
matter what
just
you do.
how the world is. Our job is to be as proactive and in compliance with the law as is possible to put us in the best.
Yeah, as long as we have the
situation.
paper trail and, hey, this is what, I can live with that.
And that's kind of where things are. Thanks for the time and attention on that. I know these are
Sounds reasonable.
not easy topics to talk about as a board, but they are important and they're important to our community. Anything else on this topic?
I think having the survey, that helps too.
Well, I wanted to know.
Right.
So what it made me feel is that the measured steps that we're taking are in general comparable to the measured steps that are happening in other middle schools in Lake County. So, okay. Next on the agenda is second reading of 5 policies that we zipped through last time. There was quite a bit of high school language, if you'll remember, in the original version, so those are all stripped out. The policies for final approval are 670, which is teaching about religions. Specifically, no emphasis on the advancement or practice of religion, so exposure. Not any kind of advancement on the stance of religion, so that's 670. 680, it seems timely. Teaching about controversial issues is in here. Oh, thank you, Matt. And again, I mean, this makes me think of when I was speaking to our guest questions around when some controversial issues came up related to things like the election, things like 9/11. It's up to us to monitor that and respond, trying our best to get ahead of things, and that's what 680 delineates. 6140 is education of homeless children, specifically some updates to McKinney-Vento. Again, we're in compliance with that already. 6290 is related to homework policy and the purpose of homework. Please note that this does not delineate minutes and what exactly homework is. That's our decision. That's ours to decide and communicate out to our families what homework constitutes. For example, Lotus, we want kids reading. Reading is the most important thing we want our little ones learning how to do. So you see that communicated. So This speaks more to district beliefs around homework, so that is 6290, and then 6330 is awards and achievement, or excuse me, achievement and awards. So that's the uniform process for presenting awards and honors, such as student recognition, such as PBIS recognition and rewards, such as Stanton is bringing back some of its student recognition and in-house events because now we can do it again. So as long as we have a process that's fair and equitable and publicly communicated, most importantly to our kids, so they know how that works for them. So I would be asking for final approval of those revised policies.
I make motion. Second.
Got a motion by Roger, a second by Ken. Please pull the board.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Yes, motion passes.
Fantastic. Thank you. So first reading on two policies that are very timely. So 270 is filling vacancies on the board. School code has now shifted. Prior to that, and it's timely because we have to fill a vacancy. Prior to now, it was 45 days to fill those seats when they occurred. It's shifted to 60 days to fill an open position. I feel confident that we'll be able to do it with our current vacancy within 45, but it's always good to first live within the parameters, but then also if there's more grace time allowed, if something were to come up, I think it's good to get that 60-day in here. On a side note, since this is on topic to board elections, I will let the board know that I've already, and you've seen it in communication, informally inform the community of the vacancy anticipated tonight. There are formal procedures that we follow, and that's what's in your packet on Exhibit C. So we'll have to get it in the newspaper. We'll have to send out formal documentation on it, put the vacancy on the website. But I can tell you informally, we have 3 candidates interested already. So that's a great thing.
All parents?
Yes. So that is 270. The only substantive change in that is the change from 45 days to fill to 60 days. And then behind that circles us back to the sex education conversation. This is 660, instruction, curriculum, content. So you can see there's a ton, rather than doing what I typically do is the notation at the top of what's the change. You can see them delineated in here. There's a lot of strike throughs. You saw yellow highlights on page 6 of 10 of the policy. It is drafted to reflect what I talked to you about in the memo. So this would be what went into effect with the 114 proposal, if that makes any sense. So back to Brian's point of what matches, this matches what that memo with all the curriculum standards would do, specifically related to health. It also delineates in here cursive instruction and some of the things we've implemented in the recent past, given those directives, which, well, let me free to talk to you about that. So those would be the draft policies for consideration. I think it would make sense to put this all together in terms of communication with the public, to put the draft policy up, to put the health education bullet points up, to link to, these are the exact standards being taught, to put the specific language of, we're not opting in, we're not opting out, we're opting our way. And our way looks like this.
Did you just say something about cursive?
Yeah.
What was that?
It's been in place that on or before the completion of 5th grade, cursive instruction has to happen. So that's been in place for 2 years. It happens here in 3rd grade. Right, Matt?
Carter and Gavin are getting sent back.
Is that correct? Am I correct that it's 3rd grade? Cursive? Okay, that's what I thought. So, I guess I'll just say it. Ken, is it okay if I talk about what we were talking about?
Yeah.
Related to cursive?
Yeah.
So, do you want to say what happened?
My daughter's a student athlete and she's required to sign the permission slip. She can't sign it. And she's not the only one who can't sign. So I emailed Heather and said, why can't our kids sign their names? And it's just because they don't use it. That's all.
Well, I think, no, to be transparent, there was a gap in the instruction. There was a period of time the cursive wasn't taught, right?
Well, and none of my 6th grader doesn't know how to write because that wasn't a priority during
Right.
Yeah, and I think as a parent, it's a fair expectation for your, 8th grade daughter is coming out of, I mean, she should be able to sign her name already, but she sure damn well would be able to sign her name when she enters high school.
And I think, I would look at you and ask, how often do you write in cursive
Every day.
when you sign?
5 times a day sometimes, yeah.
Right. So here's a proposal, because we're trying to get creative about this. We have a group of kids who haven't learned that. And I appreciate Ashlyn and Ken bringing it forward. So what I'm going to do is do signatures with the soup and do after school time where kids can come, and that's what we'll work on, is learning how to do their signature. And we're going to practice autographs, and I'm going to do it, and I can't even wait. So
Carter and Gavin will be joining.
that's fine. But I might have kids sign up because I know exactly how I want to do it. I used to be a teacher many years ago. I know that y'all don't remember that. Before I took this job, I was a pretty okay teacher. So I don't know, Rochelle and Jeff are going to let me do it with the kids at Stanton. The students at Lotus will learn. We have a cluster of kids that haven't
I
learned it.
remember ours was.
So let's do it.
The chalk thing with the.
With the line?
multiple,
Yeah.
and
So
you
you
walked
don't
up
have to
to
do that
that
anymore.
word, you started going.
That's not what it's going to look like. It'll look different than that.
See, back in the days, it was calligraphy.
Yeah.
So now
It's cursive. So we're going to do signatures with the soup or handwriting with Heather. I'm not sure yet. Because the kids can't get Frizzell and they freak out when they can't remember my name. I don't care if they call me Heather. So that's what we're going to do.
Good.
Yeah, like I mentioned in the email, just sign in their homework. As
Yeah.
opposed to writing their name
And that will be
on
the
top.
other thing.
It's the littlest
Yeah.
thing that they.
Well, you got to practice it.
repetitively.
One little time with me with pops ain't going to fix it. But anyway, we're working on it.
I
I
warned
appreciate
Ashley.
the issue coming forward. Because if we don't know, we can't fix it. So I appreciate that coming forward. So those would be the 2 draft policies that will go up for review. Okay? Cool. Info items. As you know, this board has always historically valued the board governance award and ongoing professional development for us. So I asked Laura Martinez to give us the most updated training flyer of everything that we can access through IASB. So this is here for your consideration. All the different workshops that are available. Laura does not provide all of them. There are lots of different IASB reps that can help us with this. So what I would ask is that before next meeting, you take a look at this to figure out what might be of interest to you to learn more about. I know the board conference is coming up as well for some of us, but this would be something that comes to us for board professional development. So at the next agenda, if you could make a note, Christy, we'll bring this up as a discussion on what people would like to do. Okay?
Yep.
Then the last thing I bring your attention to is the Stanton Plastic Reduction Plan. Woo-hoo! Exhibit P. So we have students who feel very strongly about this. They brought it forward to Georgette Franco, who's our food services coordinator and our kitchen team. We've been using sporks, and the kids don't like it. It's Stanton's carbon footprint. So we're bringing regular silverware to Stanton. Their why is in a year we use 39,000 sporks during lunch. That's 390,000 in a 10-year span, and that's a lot of plastic. So we're going to work with the kids on how to be safe with silverware, where to put the forks and the spoons, and not to throw the silverware away. We're looking to make a change in environment, and that will start on Monday. So I wanted to make the board aware of that.
You already have the equipment to wash?
Yep. So there you go. Dates of note are listed here for you. The October meeting is a little bit earlier, so make sure you adjust your calendar. Thanks for your grace in that. Remember that week that we would typically meet is when I'm running the Lake County Superintendent's Conference in Galena. The Lake Division meeting is the night after that, so we can do two evenings in a row. If you're interested in attending, let Christy know that. The joint annual conference is here. We're working on a Thursday night outing for us to do together, and then the March Lake Division meeting is on here as well. Any questions? With that, we have a couple topics that I would like to discuss in closed session.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion to move into closed session for the purpose to discuss related confidential staff information, student issues, and the superintendent's evaluation. Motion by Andy. Second by Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion passes at 8:52.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Too old to sit that long. Cupcakes? Anyone? Take a cupcake. Take a box of cupcakes. Take some cupcakes.
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Please give them with love. Take them. Thank you for coming.
Worst comes to worst, you can put me down for a large stamped t-shirt.
You have a color?
Red
Red.
works.
Red.
Oh, I think that because it's fall, it's coming into fall, right? So I got a long sleeve, I want the long sleeve.
Right.
Did you look at the t-shirt sweatshirt?
I went, I just saw it yesterday. I went and clicked on a link and it said it was.
Yeah, that's what you gotta
expired.
tell me. You know what you want?
Well, I don't even.
Oh, you couldn't even look at it.
I didn't even see it.
You guys, District Otis.